Here we are, guys, at the third day of MCU week. The days where I upload entirely Marvel-related analyses in the build-up to that tiny little movie coming out on the night of the 26th. I think it's called Avengers Infinity War. I have decided to delay the ranking and reviewing of all of the MCU movies video for a little bit, because this week I just don't really have enough time to work on something quite that substantial. I kind of overestimated myself a bit there. But fret not, as today I will be talking about why I continue to see these interconnected Marvel movies each year. First off, I'd like to talk about my background with the franchise. I believe the first movie I ever saw was The Avengers. I quite enjoyed it, but didn't have enough background on these characters to be really invested. I had been seeing a couple of Fox and Sony Marvel pictures around that time, but I hadn't gotten very into the MCU until Guardians of the Galaxy came out in 2014. Now at the time I really didn't get the whole cinematic universe thing, but I absolutely loved that film on its own. From then on I saw every single MCU film in theaters, no hesitation. I think one of the appeals of Marvel's brand of cinematic universe is the thing that I just mentioned, that I was able to sit down, watch a film with no strings attached. I was able to enjoy it on its own without knowing much about the surrounding universe. I didn't really know what the universe was. My parents are totally in the superhero thing, but when I show them a film, they like it, and I don't have to drag them to see a bunch of other films they don't really care to see. Guardians of the Galaxy has Thanos shown prominently in the story, but that can be your only gateway into the character, and it'd still be fine. Marvel has constructed their films in a way where previous films do tie into the newer ones somewhat, but they really just enhance the other stories and aren't essential. That said, it is really cool to see this universe developing throughout the movies. When I rewatched the first two Avengers movies for the upcoming video, I noticed they both had some foreshadowing to Civil War, which was really cool to look back on. Age of Ultron even had some nods to Black Panther. It's crazy to think how long Marvel has been planning these movies, these storylines. These Easter eggs that they include in each film as references to future films and past films and all of that help build an audience around their brand by rewarding them for paying attention throughout this cinematic journey of theirs. Another thing that I personally think Marvel excels at is tone. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I really kind of like that Marvel doesn't take itself too seriously. They know that these stories are a little silly and don't try to present it otherwise. At the same time, they know when to keep it real unless the premise of a joke is that it breaks the tension. The only film where I can say the humor kind of annoyed me is Age of Ultron. They made Ultron seem really menacing in the trailers, but he mostly just acted like a freaking goober in the movie. And worse, he was not really all that funny. As long as the humor makes sense for the story, I'm all for it. But the most prominent part of all of Marvel's films is the characters. These films would be nothing without the amazing characters. It is so impressive how Marvel develops arcs for these characters throughout every film they appear in. Tony Stark started out working for the government, then rebelling against it, then wanting to cooperate with them again. All based on the stuff he went through. Steve Rogers goes from practically being a slave to the government to having less trust in them to rebelling against them. But he still keeps his core personality. A good-hearted fighter who is able to lead his teammates. Even during all of this, he still says the phrase,
"Final warning. I could do this all day."
Now, the few glaring flaws that people point out about Marvel's films, there have been many very good video essays, are color grading, music, and villains, all of which I agree with, but especially the villains. Now, the first, color grading, has been pretty much fixed since Guardians 2. Now all the films look pretty stunning. You know, there's some weird CGI here and there, but like the visuals have been really good lately. And the second two elements are looking pretty promising in Infinity War. That trailer music was incredible, and what I've heard is that Thanos is a really intimidating, complex villain. But I will talk a little bit more about that in another video. So anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this short little video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss tomorrow's video, which is day 4 of MCU week, where I will be discussing what I want to see in Infinity War. Sayonara. Mighty roar. Bye. You know what I really like, Marvel? They didn't do this to me. DCU, yet another reason to hate you. My channel wasn't monetized and it's just a copyright claim, but whatever, I like to complain, alright?